Hi, everyone. First of all, I want to thank you for coming to the channel. Um, I guess I need to explain why this channel is here and why it's up. First of all, my name is Derek Smoking Jones, or AKA Smoking Ink DJ. Or back in the day, it was Smoking, Smoking Jones. I'm a Chicago native. I consider myself one of the original bricks in house music that helped build the foundation of Chicago house music. Just a brief history of who I am before I get into why these videos are up and you're able to watch them right now. So I figure I have to give some context to who I am, and because there's a lot of people that don't know who I am, and there are quite a few people that do know who I am. So I started in house music in Chicago around, I would say, actually becoming a fan in around 83 ish. Yeah, about 1983. Um, I started out with a group or a promotional team at that time called Park Avenue, and we would go out and promote different parties we were doing. And we had what we call in-house DJs, and I was one of those in-house DJs in training to play in open parties until the headliners came or whatever the case was, in the 80s. Fast forwarding, I ended up producing my own music, and I signed to a record label in Chicago called Rockin' House Records, which was Rodney Baker. Rest in peace, Rodney. Um, and then from that, I ended up signing to another legendary um, record label in Chicago called Chicago Track Records. And a lot of people have their opinions about that label. I have mine. We're not going to get into that because that's not what it's about. But rest in peace, Larry Sherman. Um, and let's just move forward from that. Incidentally, just for a little context, if people look for me on that uh, particular label, I was on there as DK Productions. That was Derek and Kevin. Kevin was at the time a co-producer and a friend of mine that helped create a track called Take Me. And his girlfriend at the time, her name was Kamala. She sung on that track. And Larry misspelled her name in the labeling process, and it came out Camilla. And that's a whole nother story. If you guys want to know my story and my travel in depth in Chicago, and the places I've been and the things I've done and the tears I've cried and the pain and the suffering and all of that in this culture, then definitely give me a thumbs up. If I get 100 thumbs up on this, then I will do tell my whole story as to why and what happened, and a lot of the truths that I dealt with in this particular genre of music and culture. But moving forward, the reason why this channel was created, um, I felt, coming from Chicago and seeing some of the division and people being upset about certain documentaries and um, videos that were going up that didn't include their stories. And I felt that it was important that everybody should be able to tell their story, right? Um, There are no big me's and little you's in this. They're only bricks, and bricks help to build a building. But first, you have to have a foundation. Well, our foundation is house. But in the midst of that foundation of house, it also took a lot of people to bring it all together. The foundation to construct the building. In this first set of videos are primarily the godfathers, if you will, the founders. There will be more videos being uploaded. I please ask you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It is important because it keeps the history moving. It keeps it in the algorithm when you like and subscribe and comment. Like, subscribe, comment. It keeps everything in the algorithm and it keeps our history moving. As we know, in this day and time, they are trying to erase our history. And we cannot allow our history to be erased. We know in this day and time, our history is being whitewashed and, diluted. So I felt that it was important that Chicago was able to tell their story, New York was able to tell theirs, Philly, so on. I felt, looking around, that this is interesting that Atlanta has a house culture, and this is something that I felt should be told after talking to different promoters and different people. So that's how this channel came about. Not just that, but we we are constantly culturally appropriated, um, and duplicated, like rock and roll, disco, the blues, jazz, so much stuff, has been invented and created off the backs of Black people. And we're getting erased just in the world, and faded away of our contributions to music and culture and all of that. And these videos are important to show that no, these were the originals. These were the people. These were the instances that these things happened. These were the situations. And I think we need to be more honest and transparent. There are a lot of videos that are out with different house music stories, and they always tell the happy, it's all daisies and love and everybody was getting along and it's great and all that. And for the most part at the events, that is true. But behind the scenes, DJs can be very competitive, very cutthroat, very stab in the back. Performers run into the same thing. There's instances where dancers and competitive dancers have had their differences and stuff like that. And I'm just saying that there's a good and a bad side to everything, and everybody typically always wants to tell the good side and they don't want to tell the bad side. um, and I think more videos should be more upfront and upright about the good and the bad, the things that made you feel good and the things that made you cry, the things that hurt you, the things that made you angry. And I know we're always in this situation where we don't never want to ruffle anybody's feathers or step on anybody's toes. Um, but I mean, when you think about it, that's just been the business and the culture in general. You know, cultural appropriation is a real thing. I mean, we're seeing that with big name artists now. That if you guys are following TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and you seeing these arguments of cultural appropriation, people that were invited to the barbecue and they got comfortable being at the barbecue with us, and you know, all of a sudden they were able to say the nigger word, because they got that comfortable where they were able to call us, "What's up, my nigga? What's up, my nigga?" And we treated them, hey, like family, because we never thought in a million years, because of our personality and how we are. We're a very loving, giving, sharing culture, and we're like, hey, come on in, come on in, brother, sister. We love you. We look at you as one of ours, and people take that to heart and they just run with it, and don't understand that that is a badge of honor. That is a thing that you carry with you still with respect. Um, and just because you're in Rome doesn't mean you always have to do as the Romans do, if that makes any sense. Um, but yeah, I felt everybody should be able to tell their story. I didn't want to see Atlanta house music story being whitewashed or put on the back burner. And while a lot of the artists and producers and DJs were still around, I wanted them to have the opportunity to tell their story. So yeah, that's how we got here. Kind of, it's being reviewed right now to be a docu series on a few major streaming outlets. And that's another reason why it's important that you like and share, because I also want to tell the part too. I don't want anybody offended that is watching this that are DJs and producers that we haven't gotten to. And that is because we had to get the founders first, and then we were going to work our way down to everybody that helped to do something or contribute something in the house music culture, from other DJs to dancers to venue owners, club owners. We're coming, but it's important that this portion of it moves, because if this portion of it doesn't move, then the rest of the story can't be told. Um, on the level that we would want it to be told, we can absolutely put up the videos like we're doing now, but to get it in a thing where it gets global, the way we would like it to be, that would be the challenge. Um, so I gave you a little bit of background on myself. How did I get into Atlanta? Well, for a lot of reasons, everybody had these assumptions on how I came to Atlanta. I did not come to Atlanta to be the next hot DJ or the takeover guy, that a lot of artists and DJs do when they come into another state. Um, some of them come in with this takeover spirit that, hey, I'm gonna turn this whole set out. I didn't come here for that. I came because Chicago winters were kicking my ass. And when I started running my snowblower on my property in Chicago and saw that the snow was this high over my head and my commercial snowblower was not able to blow that snow any higher, it was time to go. It was time to go. My wife and I both wanted a change, and we originally looked at Hard Rock Cafe, well, in Vegas, because I was going to do a residency at Hard Rock Cafe. My wife felt that that wasn't the place for her, so we didn't do Vegas. Then I looked at Arizona, and she said it was too brown for her, so we didn't do that. Then we moved forward to looking into Nashville, Tennessee, and we were that close to moving to Nashville. And because my wife is very pro black and outspoken, she was like, no, that might not be the place for us, because she says, I'm not going to bite my tongue to racism or anything else. And we both know that we are those people that will speak our minds. And, I just don't want to be constantly in drama. Now, is saying Atlanta is any different? No. But what we did do was settle here because we had friends here. I had a best friend that has already been here 10 or 12 years, and he loved it. And I had another friend that was already here at the time. She was here, maybe about 3 to 5 years. And they was like, no, come on down, check these areas out. And that's what we did. And at the time, my wife had a major surgery while she was in Illinois. And when we moved here, she was incapacitated, and I had to take care of my wife. I had to bathe her and, help her out around the house and all of those types of things. And I didn't know anything about the house music culture here. I knew about the house in the park. And that's the most I knew about the house music culture in Atlanta. Was House in the Park. I knew they did do some things, at the Weekender and stuff like that, and that was the extent of it. But I came here before climate change, coming from Chicago and dealing with that hawk, and we wanted more land and things like that because we're kind of those black rednecks. Well, at least I am. My wife never claims that, but I am. And I like to fish and hunt and go mudding in four wheelers and ride horses and all of those types of things. Those are my interests. And Atlanta presented a lot of those things. And what we did realize in Atlanta, Black people will support Black people, especially in businesses. Now, is things overpriced? Yeah. Are things a little over exaggerated? Yeah. Is this a place that we've learned that you can fake it till you make it? Absolutely. I'm not going to pull any punches. Um, but at the end of the day, we love Atlanta, we love Georgia on that level. Um, now, are we here to stay? We don't know. We're kind of looking again. I don't know if we're going to look further into Georgia or if we're going to look possibly into going to another state. And even there's talk of going into another country. We don't know. 2025 is presenting itself to be very interesting politically and racially. This is a great awakening period. So it's one of those things where we're waiting to see. But um, when we got here, I wasn't doing any DJing. The first people I met when I got here, realistically, that was a DJ named Miko Jones, and from Miko Jones, I met um, um, Selectress K, which is Select K. You probably will see videos on them. Um, Another guy, young guy, dancer named Doc Ramadan that dances and he DJs and stuff like that. And then from that, I met other people. Great guy like Calvin Morgan. I met Yusef Terry, and a lot of the people that you see on the videos right now. A lot of people knew of my history and my background in Chicago, and that opened some doors for me because I already had a history. I already had a music catalog out. After I left those other labels, I started my own label, which was PMG, Power Mix Group One Records, and I built a huge catalog on that. I changed distribution company, so a lot of good portion, like 90 of my songs have come down, and I'm working with a new distribution company now to get those songs back up, back on Traxsource and Beatport and a lot of places where DJs shop for music and things like that, and streaming sites and so on. The newer songs and tracks that I did are currently up and stuff like that. I'm just kind of putting that out there, not to brag, but for validation in the way where people always say, well, I want to see some receipts. I want to see some receipts. So I'm trying to give you a way to find receipts. I have a Mixcloud, if you're interested in that. But at the end of the day, I met these people, and the first party that I started here in Atlanta was the yard. Not oh, no, it was not the yard party. It was the bonfire, and I started that with Miko Jones, Ramadan, and Tracy Levain, and I believe Selectress K also was in the first group. And we did a yard party. Now, my reasoning for doing the yard party, the bonfire, was because I wanted to introduce myself properly to the community. I wanted to see what the community was like. And I knew the community would come out because they would be curious as to who I am and what I'm doing and all of that, because people are just curious that way. They're going to come out the first time. They may come out the second time to see what the vibe is, if they like it, or just to feel you out to see who you are as a person. And my wife and I, we set it up as a way to introduce ourselves to the community, meet people, and let them know where our hearts was and where our hearts is and was at that time. So um, at that time and currently, it's all about for the love of the culture, the love of the music. Um, and from that point, when we had, as they say, what's the word I'm looking for? Clashes of personalities with the original group. That group kind of broke up and everybody kind of dispersed and went their own way. And we stayed in light contact with each other. And then further down the line, my wife and I wanted to keep the events going because we like the vibe. We like hanging with people and all of that. And we created the yard. And the yard was a monthly event that we were doing on the property every month on our property, where you could come, set up your tent, set up your chairs, and listen to free music because we brought in different DJs to come play. And all you had to do was come, be respectful of the property, and just vibe. And not only be respectful of the property, but we expected you to be respectful of the DJs and the people that came, whether they were gay, whether they were straight, whether they were young or old. We demanded that respect. And if you didn't give that respect, we immediately booted your ass off the property because we didn't want that. We didn't want any egos or any judgment where, it's traditional that a bunch of DJs will stand around like brain surgeons and dissect every DJ's mix and oh, that blend was a little off. Oh, that was a little shaky. Oh, there was a mistake done there. And we didn't tolerate that either. If you did it, you had to think it in your mind or you had to talk about it once you left this property, but you were not going to do that while you were here because it was just about the music. People are going to do very good sets. Sometimes people will do shaky sets. Sometimes people will do sets that are not totally desirable to everybody. But at the end of the day, it was just for the love of the music and the culture and everybody just coming together and vibing off the music and having a safe space and a quiet space to say, man, you know what? This is cool. And that's what we got. Everybody kept saying, man, we love this. It's tranquil. It's no animosity. It's no judgment. We can be ourselves here and da da da. Now, what happened over time was we found that some people didn't totally respect the property and they would leave garbage and their food garbage and walk past garbage cans and things like that. And that kind of irritated us. We brought in porta potties and things like that we took care of and made sure they were clean, they were sanitary, that they had lights and they smelt fresh and all of that. And people, females, actually would mess those things up and it would piss off my wife and she would have to call the porta potty company to come in and clean a perfectly clean porta potty because somebody decided that they didn't want to use the bathroom the right way, if you know what I mean. And when people started leaving the trash and doing certain things, it made us feel like, man, we're trying to show and give love to the community in Atlanta, the Atlanta house music community, and we're not getting it back. And that hurt, you know, which after we did the full year and a half run of the yard, I struggled to do the one for 2024 going into 2025. I didn't want to do it. I didn't do it. I totally dropped off the scene and we didn't do any of the yard parties for that year because we thought about the expense of the porta potties and we thought about the cleanup and dealing with certain attitudes and stuff like that. And we just decided not to do it for 2024. I'm trying to be totally transparent. This is not a diss video. It's just, we always tell the good stuff and we never tell the bad stuff. And, that's what we did. You'll notice in this video, because I'm shooting this video from a different camera, that it won't have all the bells and whistles from all the other videos that you guys are going to be watching on the channel. You might see two videos of me, because this is a video because I figured out that I had not explained why this channel was created. So this is kind of an impromptu video. And then there was an actual interview where I did do, which you will see. So you're probably going to see two videos. But yeah, that's why we stopped. We've recently worked with and acquired another 100 acres with a lake, and we're thinking about doing some bigger events on there. I'm in communication with some bigger promoters that do things on a larger scale. One of the last things that we did here on our property was um, we did a house music camp out, meaning you came, you stayed overnight, and you listened to music and you kicked it. It went really well. Some people shied away because they thought it was going to be super cold and all of that. And it turns out it really didn't get cold till about 3 or 4 in the morning. And just when you were getting cold, the heat came back on you, and you were back to sweating again. So you just had that little pocket. So some people missed out because they got afraid that, oh, it's going to get too cold. But we had all the accommodations of bathrooms and heaters, and we had big screen TVs out there and tons of food. And a few people kind of missed out on it. But at the end of the day, I felt God makes no mistakes. And the people that remained and came, we made new friends. We found more people from Chicago. We found more people from New York and Baltimore that didn't even know about the house scene totally in Atlanta. They knew, they were like me. All they knew about was House in the Park. And that was pretty much it. And they were very grateful that we did what we did. And it was all love. People didn't want to go home. Matter of fact, people didn't start leaving the camp out totally until about 3 o'clock the next day, 3 p.m. the next day. And they had already been there the day before, starting at around that same time, so moving forward from all of that, I'm hoping that you guys enjoy the videos, share the history. Don't allow our history to be whitewashed and um, allowing the culture vultures to come in and take away what has been created in house music. Lastly, you'll see in a lot of the videos, there's a talk about EDM and stuff like that in the videos, and how the white culture supports and how the black culture supports. Well, part of it is, the original house culture came from bubble gum and soft drinks and punch, and $5 parties. When I did my first party in Chicago, I did it again at my home, and it was called the blue light party. So when you saw that blue light on, you know, at my house, you knew that there was a huge party in the basement, and people were just paying quarters or 50 cents to come in and party all night. And it was standing room only. So we've came up in a culture where we were used to not paying these exorbitant amounts of money. As you heard in some of the videos, with some of the veteran DJs and stuff, they express that it's a difference in the vibe of the music and the culture. The EDM culture was kind of tied to, fist pumping music and atmospheric antics, meaning, the lights and the big screens and all the other things to take your attention off of the music. They made more of a festival type of environment, and it's no knock or dig. It's just that wasn't traditional black house music. And their music was also tied to a lot of drugs and things. And not saying that house music didn't have its drugs, but for the most part, that's how EDM, people would get high and just, dance and jump up and down to a pumping beat and build ups, dan da 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 da, boom, 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 boom. And house music speaks more to the spirit. House music came from the root of disco and gospel music. And in Chicago, we were very tracky when we were making music. We would take tracks, create beats, and pull samples and drop those samples over stuff. And then we started experimenting with actual vocalists as we progressed and moved on. We've had some house tracks crossover. Um, and I want to tell y'all up front, I wish people would stop saying Percolator is a house song. It's not. It got adopted into house, but it's not a house song. We like Percolator, but it just wasn't a house song. Um, and that's usually how you can always tell a house newbie is when you say, hey, name some house music. The first two songs they're gonna always say is Percolator, and the second one is Follow Me. And Follow Me was one of those songs that crossed over. I think one of the first house songs that crossed over was Steve Silk Hurley, JM Silk, which was Keith Nunley and Steve Silk Hurley. They were the first ones to actually cross over into a different market. And that's the thing too with our music and stuff like that. A lot of labels and stuff, they didn't gravitate and push house music the way we really wanted them to, because it was very positive. It spoke to the spirit. It spoke about our struggles, our ambitions, and our love, and that wasn't enough drama to sell. You know what I mean? That's why I got so overtaken by hip hop, and then just the homophobia of disco. When you think about clubs like the Paradise Garage, Studio 54, the Warehouse Soy, where it had a large gay community that supported disco. And when you think about even a lot of the popular white bands and stuff that were making disco, they were forced to cross over into that black sound in order for these labels to make more money and the bands to stay relevant and stuff like that. And they had to cross over. And you have artists today that are producing music that try and make music where it's socially acceptable for black people and is able to cross over a little bit into the white market so they can stay relevant and get their streams and make their money, because realistically it's all about money. But what I don't want us to do is get so far down that rabbit hole that we forget who we are, why we created what we created, the purpose of it, and celebrating. And we're not saying that that we own house and that it's not it doesn't belong to anybody else. That's what they used to say about people in Chicago. Chicago people act like because they the home of house music that they own it and da 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 and da da da. In some cases, you might have had some gatekeeping on that possibly, but at the end of the day, I think it was not so much that. I think it was just a pride thing. It was just pride. Chicago was proud of what they created and what they did. And we were very happy about that. And what we didn't want to do is have anyone take that from us, or say that, oh, we didn't do it, So I think that's where that really came from. And we were 10 toes down on like, nah, forget that. This is what we did. This is what we created. And if there was a powder keg of house or a style of house that derived from disco and gospel, Chicago was definitely the fuse that blew that keg up and sent it all over the world. So just to give you that context of why certain Chicago guys act the way they do and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, y'all, that's it. I just wanted to bring this to you all. Watch out for these culture vultures that try and pretend like they're us and they're not. The ones that we're constantly inviting to the barbecue, and then later on we find that they're disrespecting everybody at the barbecue. And let's keep making Black music. Let's continue to create soulful, meaningful, lyrically full house songs and stuff like that. Um, I'm not against sampling and remaking of certain songs and familiar songs because, I mean, again, people try and follow the trends in the market, and people will recreate R&B songs and disco songs, and some people will sample those songs because those songs pop to memory and they'll draw in another type of crowd. Let's not be mean to the young people that are coming in that really love house music. I want to get those interviews out so you can see these 19, 18, 20-year old new house DJs that love house just as much as the veterans do, if not more in some cases, that are really working hard to be recognized and heard, and they just have a natural, genuine love for the music. Um, and those stories need to be told. Everybody's story needs to be told, from the dancers to the DJs, the promoters, the venue owners, etc. Everybody has a voice in this. It took many bricks to build all of these cultures in house music. And from the main root, we have developed techno, EDM, Jackin House, Afro House, Tribal House, you know, new disco. The list can go on of the tree and all the branches that the main root is. And the main root was Black culture. We love our culture. We our culture has always been appropriated and whitewashed, but at the end of the day, I always said somebody should do this and somebody should do that, and I decided that I should be the somebody to take a stand, take one of the stands, and I'm hoping this will influence other people to take stands and making sure that house music, the people that are involved, everybody involved, get their recognition, give them their roses while they're here. And if they passed away, still give them their roses. Be honest about the culture and just tell the truth, and that hey, this was the good side of it, this was the bad side of it, but it was still love. And yeah, support and like these videos is important, because when we stay in the algorithm and we start building this up, we can get this over to TV or streaming services. That's why it's important. I'm seeing a lot of views on this, a lot of views, but I'm not seeing it equal in the likes, and I'm not seeing it equal in the subscribership. The views are there, but we forget to like and we forget to subscribe. So, guys, if you can, please, please do that so we can go to the next level with this and also introduce the other DJs. There are some videos, and I'm sure people are very curious for the finale of what I'm saying, where we did interview dancers and things like that, and we want to get those videos up. The problem that we're having with those videos right now for YouTube, that's why we need them tied more into the documentary side, is the copyright strikes, because a lot of these interviews were done at clubs or near clubs where a lot of the background music was coming into the interview a little bit. And when YouTube picks it up, it copyright strikes it. Oh, you got a copyright strike. You got a copyright strike. And we didn't want anything hurting the channel. So a lot of those interviews are kind of set. They're gonna come up at one point, but they're sitting on the back burner right now. We're in discussion with YouTube right now about how we can work this out and get your interviews up where you're at parties or clubs or venues. We have tons and tons of footage of dancers and just beautiful footage of dancers doing their thing. And the issue was the music in the background, believe it or not. So again, that's why it's important that you like, so we can build this channel where we can get your views up and get your videos up and show, what y'all were doing out there and get this tied into the documentary. So hopefully that answers everybody's questions, and hopefully, now you know who I am. Briefly, I didn't go into my history because it really totally in my history because it wasn't about me. It was about the Atlanta house music movement and us as a people sticking together and standing firm on our culture, because they're trying to erase us, man. And we can't stand for it. So again, one love, one house. And we appreciate every culture, everybody that gets involved to push and play house music. We appreciate it. And those of you all that are not, as they say, that don't look like us, that play our music and do our things, continue to do that, man. But show love to the veterans, show love to the people that help build the culture. Don't appropriate, just appreciate. Just appreciate, play the music, stay in harmony with everybody, and give the roses to the people that deserve it, and that help build it, from the dancers all the way to the DJs and everything. Because without the dancers and the people that love the sound, there is no house. So the dancers are extremely important. The party supporters are extremely important. They're the ones that ultimately keep the culture going. So much love. Stay healthy. Stay blessed. And thank you.